I am a Bengali, and like most Bengalis, I grew up surrounded by stories. Not just bedtime stories, but Rupkathar Golpo. Grand mythological sagas passed down through generations. In our home, Ramayana and Mahabharat weren't just stories, they were ours. And they belong not to a religion, but to the heart of India. So, when I saw the announcement that Aamir Khan finally starting pre-production of Mahabharat from this August, calling it a story that runs through his veins and promising a multi-film epic with new actors and multiple directors, I froze. My gut screamed two things at once. Finally! And God, please don't mess this up. Because if done right, Mahabharat won't just be a movie. It will be India's Game of Thrones and maybe more. Hey guys, I'm Saurav and you are watching Finally Bangali. In today's video, I will break down how Mahabharat can be India's answer to epics like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, and why it has even more scope than the upcoming Ramayana movie, which we broke down just a few days ago. With that down, let's start with something controversial. Yes, Ramayana is timeless, poetic, elegant, but Mahabharat is a monster, but in the best way possible. If Ramayana is like an epic poem, Mahabharat is a psychological thriller written by gods, narrated by flawed men, and it has hundreds of characters, twisted loyalties, morally ambiguous heroes, and even strategic warfare. Think about it. Karna, born noble, dies cursed, rejected by both sides. Draupadi, married to 5 men, humiliated in court, and yet becomes the spine of the epic. Shakuni, the original political manipulator, the little finger of Mahabharata. Krishna, the god who plays dirty to maintain dharma. This isn't your standard good versus evil tale. This is Shakespearean. This is global, and this is cinematic gold. While Ramayana ends in resolution, Mahabharata ends in regret, and that's why it's perfect for our times. Look, if Game of Thrones was an imitation, Mahabharata is the OG of epics. Let's get one thing straight. George R.R. Martin may have created Westeros, but Vasudev created Kurukshetra thousands of years ago. You want political drama? You have the Pandavas in exile negotiating peace while sharpening their swords. You want betrayal? How about Drona demanding Eklavya's thumb? You want a moral compass? How about Krishna giving Arjun a literal existential crisis right before a war? So while Game of Thrones had dragons and White Walkers and whatnot, Mahabharata too has divine weapons, astras, shapeshifters, time loops, and so much more. But more importantly, Mahabharata understands people. The way we justify our wrongs. The way war isn't about winning, but surviving. And unlike Thrones, which crumbled in season 8, Mahabharata was always about the consequences. So why am I saying Aamir Khan leading this project is both perfect and terrifying? Let's talk about that. If you'd asked me about 10 years ago whether Aamir should helm a project like Mahabharat, I would say yes in all caps. I mean, Lagan, Dangal, Tare Zameen Par, 3 Idiots, he knew the pulse of India. He respected the stories. But post Lal Singh Chadda, things have changed. That spark, that trust, it dimmed. This current Aamir, he doesn't feel like the same artist who gave us films that moved the nation. He feels more like someone who is trying to win us back but has no idea how to do so. And that, honestly, is what makes this a huge gamble and an interesting one at that. Because Mahabharat isn't just a project. For Aamir, it's his redemption. Still, his approach is bold. Multiple films, smart. New actors, risky but fresh. See, as good as it sounds to imagine a Hrithik Roshan as Arjun, Amitabh Bachchan as Vishwa, or Nawazuddin Siddiqui as Shakuni, let's be realistic about it. The Mahabharata has dozens of amazing characters, and you simply cannot get a superstar for each of the roles. No one can afford to make it. So, at some point, you will have to hire fresh faces. And and also there's the added layer of casting a big superstar that it's hard on the general audience to see past that said superstar and focus only on the character. So while it's risky to cast new actors as iconic characters, I believe with the right makers, that is the proper way forward. But we're fans, right? And we're allowed to speculate our hearts out. So why don't you guys write down in comments about your dream casting of a character or characters for that matter, and we will see which one of your dream castings gets most amount of likes. By the way, different directors for different projects could also work like the MCU. It shows that Aamir knows that this cannot be done by one man, and that's promising, but it's still a big if. If he taps into his Lagan era instincts, we're in for magic. But if it doesn't, well, we've already seen what happens when you butcher Indian epics. You know who I am looking at, right? So, how do you balance the epic and the intimate? This is the toughest challenge. How do you show gods without making them look cartoonish? How do you depict flying arrows, divine astras and shape-shifting warriors without making it look like a mobile game ad? The answer is balance and a decent amount of VFX, of course. See, even Game of Thrones had fire-breathing dragons, but it was grounded in politics, emotions and ambition. So when Visma lies on a bed of arrows, the pain isn't in the arrows, you see? It's in his silence, his helplessness, his past mistakes. When Krishna reveals his Vishwaroop to Arjun, it should be terrifying, not because of the VFX, but because Arjun finally realizes this war isn't about mere land, it's about destiny. So yes, show us magic, show us divine powers, but root it in emotion, stillness and silence. And for heaven's sake, no Adipurush style cringe dialogues, we are past that era. Come on, we demand better. So now let's move into the best part of Mahabharat, its characters. The likes of Karna, Krishna and Shakuni, well, they deserve the spotlight. This adaptation must not be about hero versus villain, it must be about human versus self. Karna is arguably the greatest underdog ever written, rejected at birth, loyal to his friend, killed by fate. He is the emotional core of Mahabharat, the man who deserved more, got less, and yet he stood tall. Krishna, on the other hand, is not your usual god. He is witty, he is ruthless, loving. He is basically Tyrion Lannister if Tyrion could summon celestial weapons. And Shakuni, he is not a villain, he is a strategist. A man driven by revenge and personal loss. A modern Mahabharat must give them space to breathe, not just in visuals, but in silence, dialogue, and in internal conflict. With that down, let us dive on to the fact that why this is the right time for Mahabharat. Let's look around after Bahubali, Kantara, RRR, PS1, PS2, Kalki. The audience has spoken loud and clear. We want spectacle, we want soul. Mahabharat is the perfect fusion of both. And globally, well, look at what Dark did for Germany, or Money Heist did for Spain, or Narcos did for Colombia. Mahabharat could be Indian cinema's first truly global IP, not just in box office terms, but in cultural dominance. This isn't about just pandals and Sanskrit sloks. It's about betrayal, war, diplomacy, philosophy, love, destiny, and yes, as a Bengali, this means something more to me. Because we are storytellers by birth. Our childhood was built on stories. It's time our stories build something larger, something international. A successful Mahabharat will not just be a film or a series, it will be a cultural phenomenon. If this works, we will finally break free from the template-driven, remake-heavy, jokey-heavy version of Bollywood. Producers will start taking risks. Writers will aim bigger. Directors will dream wilder and audiences, we will finally get what we've been craving for so long. Original Indian world-class storytelling. There are thousands of stories buried in every region of India. We all remember what happened with Tumbar. Mahabharat could open the floodgates, just like Lord of the Rings gave the West the courage to invest in high fantasies again. Mahabharat could give India its cinematic rebirth. So to conclude, has the war horn finally been blown? See, this won't be easy. It will take years of blood, conviction and money. But if done right, it could change the very DNA of Indian cinema, and Aamir Khan isn't just adapting an epic. He's trying to redeem himself. He's trying to remind India what it once was and what it still can be. And maybe that's what Mahabharat has always been about. Fate, choice, war, redemption. So let it begin. Let the war horn blow. Let Kurukshetra rise. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Please write down in comments what you make of this prospect of Aamir Khan adapting Mahabharat or Mahabharat as a trilogy of movies in general, something like that. Like and share this video with your closed one, and of course subscribe to Finally Bangali if you haven't already. Cheers.